we'll give people a chance to tune in. We'll just keep BSing as we go.
Okay.
I know he's putting this up right now.
You can tell a couple of lies, and then I'll tell a couple of lies, and then we'll just go back and forth.
Like, someday I'll be famous.
Yeah. No, I don't want to be famous. I'm already infamous. And it's just, there's really nothing to it.
My goal in life is I literally want to make a mark in history somehow. I don't know how I want to do it. I want to leave a little boot.
Yeah. Well, I probably have done it, but I'm older than you.
So, I think you've done it because I still remember your shirts. You know what I mean? I have one of your shirts from when I was a kid still. So, I think we're up and live now, and we good to go, Cody? Yep. Yeah, I guess we're live. For those of you tuning in, I have the masterful, epic artist Bill Copeland on. He is somebody I really look up to. I've loved his art for years. He used to work with Ed Big Daddy Roth. Does Roth style drawings, except for they're his own flair. I love his art. Thank you, Bill, so much for coming on, man.
Oh, you're welcome, BJ. It's an honor.
Really? I've been friends with Bill thanks to Jack from Trulers for almost 2-3 years now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's fun when you get to meet one of your childhood heroes and become a friend with them and stuff like that. Like, you go from wearing their shirt as a kid to actually getting to have them draw a picture of your hot rod you built and then come to SEMA with you.
Yes, that was fun.
That was a blast.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
That was fun having you in the booth. So many people came by the booth just to come see you and hang out with you and stuff like that. And it was just a pleasure because it was just neat. You know what I mean? For me, because I don't know, when you get to do something like that, to me, it's just fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it reminded me of the old car show days. I was on the circuit for 40 years and went to about 50 shows a year. So it's been a while since I had, done a whole show like that. And I really enjoyed it.
That was fun. You've just kind of snapped right back into action, had your easel up and just started just pounding out drawings. People were bringing pictures of their car. And you just kept pounding out more. I loved watching it because it was fun. We kind of sat back and watched, and you had a lot of the older guys coming that remembered you from way back in the day, and they were listening to all kinds of cool stories, and it was neat to see SEMA with a little bit of history kicked back in.
Yeah, yeah. Because I used to go to the SEMA show and paint T-shirts back when it was just starting, just barely started. Back in those days, you could sell, in your booths and stuff. And so, gosh, that was like the mid 70s or so.
See, to me, that's when I look back at the magazines from back then, and SEMA was such a different place, and it was such an alive event. You know what I mean? And they try and recreate it now, but it's more, I feel like it's commercialized so much, and it's less about what's different, what's new, and it's what can we sell?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and I know we talked about that after SEMA about what you thought about it too, because it always was curious in my brain because I knew you had done so many SEMAs prior, and to just see the difference of what you had seen and all kinds of stuff like that. So it was, I don't know, kind of really interesting to me to get to see you in the old realm mixing with the new, and then getting to see a lot of the older guys that weren't, because I don't know if you remember the guys that stopped by the booth, most of them weren't visitors to SEMA. They were guys in the industry, exhibitors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's what I found real interesting.
Me too, because I saw people there that I hadn't seen in 30, 40 years, that I used to run the circuit with. And that was the most fun, was just seeing people you didn't know. And they'd come up to me and they go, "Hi, Bill." And I'd go, I don't know who this guy is, and don't you remember me? I'm this, that. Oh, wow. And it was such a blast doing that.
Well, it blew me away because normally coming through the booths, Like normally, for people who haven't attended SEMA, like it's usually like 300,000, 400,000 people just come to see SEMA. Like the people running the booths, you maybe have 50, 60, maybe 100,000 people there in the booths. So those people leaving their booths when they're supposed to be selling and they're coming
Mhm.
down to see Bill Copeland, to me is just hilarious because I'm just sitting there going, exhibitor, 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 exhibitor. And I was like, those are the people that matter that are actually coming up in. It was just kind of neat.
I really didn't get to see the show because I was stuck there so much of the time and was having so much fun. I really didn't see much of the show in the whole week.
Oh, you never do. That's the funny thing is like when I try and be in the booth and I'd have a meeting here, a meeting there, a meeting this, I get to see stuff as I walk past or, maybe like get a lunch and you like walk maybe a couple aisles and that's SEMA is so exciting, but at the same time, it's so much work. And it's so
Mhm.
much more fun to go to see the show than work the show.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So let's back up. Let's go all the way to the beginning. When did Bill Copeland get into cars?
Um, I grew up in Kansas, and actually, I went to high school in Dodge City, Kansas, and I had always, I was one of those kids that made the model cars, the plastic AMT model kit cars, ever since I can remember. That's all I ever wanted to do. It's what I spent my money on, you know. And even back in those days, there weren't that many hot rodders around or anything, but you had all the magazines in the drugstore that came from California, and you saw all the hot rod stuff going on there. And so that's really what got me into it. And then when I was in high school, I joined a car club there and had several cars while I was in high school and started doing a little artwork on my buddy's cars and on my own car. I would do stuff on my car and they'd go, yeah, do something like that for us. And so that's really where it started.
So what was your first car then?
My first car was a 47 Chevy Fleetwood 4-door. I I cut a widow woman's lawn one summer, and she had it sitting in her garage, and she gave it to me for cutting her lawn all summer. And that thing was, I mean, it was built like a German tank. If you've ever seen one or had one. And I took that thing home and stripped it down, made it into what we call a rat rod now, and put sneaker pipe headers on it, and it just had the old six banger in it. And then I was working in a body shop, and they brought in a brand new Chevy that had gotten totaled, had a 327 in it. So I put that 327 in it and took it out. I paid $125 for the engine for the insurance company. Went out, made the $125 back that Saturday night. And then I blew the rear end out.
Well, so that makes Empathy's fenders real familiar because those are 46 Chevys too.
Yeah, yeah.
The Fleetline Aero sedans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it was sad what I did to that car because it was I mean, it had the mohair interior in it, and it was a really classy car when I got it, and then I just tore it up. Then I got a 59 Chevy Convertible when I was the last year in high school.
Ooh.
And oh man, that came with a 348 with the three deuces on it that came from the factory. And back in those days in Kansas, you could get a license when you were 14 because all the farmers needed their kids to do the farm driving and everything. So you could get a permit when you were 14 for 2 years until you were 16, but it was restricted that you could only do farm work or drive to church or drive to school. So of course, when we were out on a date on Friday night, we were on our way to church. But
Always.
I started driving when I was 14 back there. And back in those days in Kansas, that 59 Chevy, I took the mufflers and pipes off of it and everything and put straight pipes on it all the way back. And you could get away with that in those days back there. Back in those days. You could hear that car coming 3 blocks away.
So
I had too much fun.
that would have had the cat eye taillights too, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the cat eye taillights, convertible, and straight pipes. So that means that sucker was just cruising.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So so you were in Dodge City. How'd you end up out in California?
Well, when I graduated, I went to college at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago for a year. Sold my '59 Chevy and made enough money to pay for college, my first 2 semesters, and went there for a year. And when I was there, I got a job as an artist at the magazine, Moody Monthly Magazine, which is a worldwide magazine. And it's funny because the first week I was there, they had an ad in the paper, and I went up to the 6th floor of the building there in downtown Chicago, and the editor goes, I said, I'm here, for the artist job for the magazine. And he goes, oh, really? He says, draw me something. He says, draw me a rabbit. And so I just sketched out a little rabbit. He says, you're hired. He says, the art department's down the hall. And so I walked down the hall and thinking there's going to be this great big huge room with all these guys working in it and everything. And I walked in, all the lights were off. I turned the lights off and I found out I was the art department. And so I had too much fun that year. I mean, I really did, BJ. That was one of the highlights of my life. I worked in the art department and made enough money that I special ordered a Dodge Challenger, 68 Dodge Challenger Hemi from the factory in Detroit, black on black. I had a black 68 Charger back before it was a cool thing to do. And went up to Detroit at the end of the year, picked that car up and raced it all the way out to California because I wanted to come out where my folks were here for one thing. They had moved from Kansas out here to Lodi. But I really wanted to start getting into painting T-shirts. I had seen Ed Roth do it. I had seen several of the old guys there in the magazines and stuff. And once I saw that, I go, that's what I want to do. And so I came out and introduced myself. I went down to Maywood, introduced myself to Ed Roth, and he was so generous with his time and his, he just thought it was great that anybody that wanted to do this, he was willing to help in any way he could. He didn't have any problem with anybody, thinking that, they were going to do something and maybe take anything away from him. He was a giving guy in that way. And he really encouraged me. And I went to some shows with him and watched him and fooled around. And then I went out on my own and just started going to car shows and paint T-shirts. And I loved it. Just
see, and I know you know this. He's one of the most in my life. He's one of the most influential people.
Yeah,
just the way he approached vehicles, the way he approached everything.
mm-hmm.
Like when he was the starting of the pinstriping, you know what I mean? Starting to play with all that and the oil paints, and just literally throwing stuff at the wall. They used to use transmission fluid.
Oh yeah, his shop was something else. And I used to buy all of his stuff, like the plastic World War II helmets. He used to sell those like crazy. I'd buy those by the box load and take them to car shows and sell them. And I was just really, really into it. I started going, I was on the ISCA show circuit then and started going to local shows, and then it branched out. And eventually I was going to almost 50 shows a year in the United States and Canada.
So when you were doing shows like that, you do it like Roth style, where you just slept in the back seat of your car and then just went on to the next place?
No. I stayed in motel. A lot of times there for a while, I had a motorhome, and I had a big truck that I worked out of, and then I've had several motorhomes that I worked out and stayed in hotels a lot of the time too, and got on the show circuit. It's like being a carny, I got to know all the promoters. I got to know all the other people that were vendors in the car show industry. And we traveled together actually in caravans because they would have all of the shows lined out to where you could easily go to the next show the next week because it was close. But you would just make a pattern all around the United States and up into Canada, just following the shows because they scheduled them that way.
See, I bet it was so much fun back then, at least in the beginning before it got tiring, hitting up all those shows, getting to see what was new, what the new guys were dropping, getting to see the newest builds before everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was always very exciting to see all the new stuff coming out and the different people, how they increased in their knowledge and their artistic of building different vehicles, and wanting to do better and better. You would see it year after year, with so many of these people. And that was very interesting to me because I enjoyed and got to know so many of them, and then got to the point where I was hauling show cars for the promoters, because they would always have cars that were draws, like the Dukes of Hazzard or the Batmobile or anything. And because I was going to the shows anyways, I just started driving one of their trucks that was hauling the show cars, and I just put all my junk in it and help them set up the cars and then set up my booth, and then tear my booth down, tear the cars down, go to the next show.
See, and you were doing it one of my favorite eras. I call it the copycat era. Because Ed Roth started dropping cars in the 60s, and then the 70s, they started kind of copying everything. You had the coffin car, and you had people trying to do Roth's stuff. And then it evolved into this crazy paint job. The artistry went more from sculpture into the paint,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That era is one of my favorite moments. It was all right, I can't make sculptures like him and come up with a different idea that way. And they were chopping and doing all kinds of stuff in the 70s, but in the the 60s, and then more in the 70s, it turned more into a what can I do with the colors? You know what I mean? And then the 80s ruined it with the greens and the purples and the god awfuls.
Yeah, yeah.
And the 90s went neon, and then it just really ruined everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it was there was a moment in the 70s when you got that super 70s bubble letters with the drag cars, and you could do engine turned aluminum. And I'm actually seeing a lot of that come back now in our current era, but in its own form, with the metal flake. Tammy, I've got her coming up this week on Friday for the live, and she's been creating colors that I haven't seen since the 70s. And usually it'd be a metal flake job with a candy on top to create that color, and she's actually being able to almost create that same depth. And to me, that gets me excited seeing it come back around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know if you remember that color era. That was one of my.
Oh yes, absolutely. Because I was painting people's cars on T-shirts, and of course they would want me to get as close as I could to the colors that they were doing. So I saw those different stages going on, and tried to keep up with it. BJ, when I went to a car show, it wasn't unusual for me to paint 50 shirts a day. I was painting a shirt every 10, 15 minutes and drawing them from scratch. Okay. People would give me a picture of their car, or it was in the show, and I'd go over and sketch it and then come back and draw it on a shirt from nothing. The
only thing I have is I used to work the circus or the fairs, and I had the airbrush T-shirts, and I couldn't do 50 a day. I could tell you that. I'd start at we started at 10 o'clock, and I'm done at 8 or 9, and my fingers are just tired, and you're covered in everything. And the the steam machine from when you airbrush, and you got to put them in the clamp machine. You're done. And I think maybe I could do 25 a day. And
my
50 a day,
record was actually 80.
Oh, that's some quick work, man.
Yeah. And I've got pictures of thousands of people standing watching me, that just memorized so many people. And of course the promoters loved for me to be there because I was a big draw for many, many years.
Oh, I can just imagine, especially back then when the shirts were becoming the hot thing. You know what I mean? Because it was a way for people to express their cars. And you guys, I honestly believe that was the beginning of all the no fear shirts and all the shirts most people are wearing now. They don't even realize it kind of lends back to when you guys were painting shirts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I did other things besides cars. There would be people that would want me to do, all kinds of things, whatever they were into, and in those days you couldn't get anything done like that on a one-on-one basis. And so if they came up to me and said, hey, I've got a picture of this parrot, this is what I'm into, can you put it on a shirt for me? Sure, whatever. And that made it fun too. It broke it up a little bit, but I love doing the cars. I never got tired of drawing them, and I never got tired of people just saying, Bill, just do your thing on it. Just, I want the engine, I want the monster, I want the big tires, and
Well, and honestly, it's a thing of an era, like Ed may have started it, but to me, like you were the echo voice that continued it on, because he never kept doing just that. Like he was always doing something else. Ed. Ed was just very, very fluttery, and that's where it was really unique to me, because like it was, and that's why I remember you as a kid, because I remember you taking the time to even talk to me. You know what I mean? Like, and it was because I was watching what you were doing, and it was like, it was an experience for me as a child that I can still go back and remember, because it was like you took enough time for me, and then like, oh, then you finished what you were doing, then went right back to what you were doing. But to me, it was like you were the man, because everybody was around you. You know what I mean? But yet you still took that moment, and like to me, that's, I try and do the same thing. I've always remembered that. And for somebody to like, for the shirts that you guys created back then and the impact it had later on, people don't realize like how much of a big of a difference it made in the automotive industry. Like you wouldn't see your crazy shirts you have now, and like it all evolved from like that moment of like a timeline.
And it's all coming around full circle too, BJ, as especially in other countries, Europe and New Zealand, Japan, different places like that. My style of doing cars is just really, really coming back. And I've got a lot of my artwork on Etsy and Redbubble and stuff. And I can see where they're selling, and they're selling in the United States, but they're selling even more in European countries and in the Middle East and stuff.
Australia has been in a revolution for hot rodding for about the last 10 years.
Yes.
I tune into a lot of the channels over there. There, a lot of them are friends on our channel. Like, and to me, it's like I'm watching it happen over there, and it's like I love what's going on. Like they're grasping on the last bit of horsepower, like with these 1,500, 2,000 horsepower cars, and really pushing the edge of what's going on. And it's like Americans are like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I'm like, well, move to Australia. But to me, I'm like, I love it, but at the same time, I'm always looking at what's next. Like, where are we going with technology? And like, it's like you've seen the 70s, you've seen the 80s, and it's like, where are we going next? And I paid real close attention to trends, and like all the way up to the 90s, you had people just building real clean cars. The 80s were almost a write-off with the ugly neons and the. I don't mean to say write-off. You were there. Like, what would you call it? Like the moment in the 80s for hot rodding. Like to me, I call it almost like a black eye.
Well, really, the 80s is where the car shows started to fade out, and it became more of the rod run.
See, I didn't realize that.
The custom cars, were such a big thing in the 60s, 70s, and going into the 80s. But then it was more about, hot rods and building a car that you didn't want to take it into a big building and let it sit for 3 days. You wanted to drive it around.
So that's kind of what turned the pro street movement then.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's why the car shows kind of died off.
Yes,
I was always kind of. It was. Because I remember like the shows started dying off. Even like the World of Wheels shows, like the attendance like dropped off, and that was always one of the bigger shows you could go to that was in the area.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Los Angeles, of course, was the biggest for many years. Phoenix was probably here on the West Coast. Detroit was the biggest in the United States, of course, but out here on the West Coast, LA was big, and then Phoenix was second largest show, and they were huge. I mean, back then they would take up the whole convention center in Phoenix, and it was 4 or 5 huge buildings back then, and they went very strong for very many years. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like nobody wanted to do that anymore. They wanted to build cars that they could drive around in a fairgrounds kind of an atmosphere, you know. And I saw that happen, and I just changed with the times, you know.
Well, and I know that you mentioned that you went to Bible college in Chicago, and I know you've been a Christian. When did you start your Christian journey?
Well, I was saved when I was 7 years old, you know, at my mother's knee. My dad was a Baptist minister, and I grew up as a PK, preacher's kid. And when I went to Moody, you know, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life. And so my parents encouraged me to go there because they had both gone there. And so I went there, but it wasn't a time in my life where I was close to the Lord at all. And so I really wasn't interested in becoming in any kind of full-time ministry. So that's why I didn't go back. And when I came out here to California, I went to San Diego State and got my BA in art. And while I was going to the car shows, and my whole life in the car show circuit, I was able to be a witness for Christ, you know, on a small scale. Anybody that knew me knew that I was a Christian, and I was able to start what I believe was my purpose in life, to between my artwork and my knowledge of wanting to know more about Scripture, and especially end times prophecy. I became very interested in that. I've been studying end times prophecy for over 40 years and have written a novel trilogy, as you know.
Yeah.
And I've taught in seminars and taught in churches for many years now. I love teaching Bible prophecy. And now we're living it right now. So that's been my journey and my purpose, you know, that I believe God created for me before time began.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was being a Christian in the industry back then. Like, how is it looked upon and stuff like that? Where people look down on you, or like, how do you approach situations like that?
No, BJ, that was another world. You know, it isn't the world that we live in today. There were lots of Christians on the car show circuit. Even some of the promoters were Christians, and they would even want me to do things. They would ask me to babysit personalities and stuff just because they knew I was a Christian, you know, and they could put their trust in me, and they could, you know, they felt there was some integrity there that they had seen over time. And so my witness was very real. And back in those days, being a Christian was not looked down on. You know, it wasn't like it is today. And
well, and see, that's when, like, you went to the Christmas breakfast at SEMA.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember. Hold on. Man, there was so many people there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's freaking epic.
Yes.
And
yes.
For me, that was almost like an eye opener when I was going to SEMA for the first few times. It's like I didn't know if it was okay to be a Christian, didn't know, you know, what you could talk about, what you couldn't. It's not like the place you want to witness to people, but like, it's also one of the most stressful times that you're going to have in your business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was great to have other people that came up and were like, hey man, I understand this is a stressful time. You're a young company, you know, and like, to have them kind of like, hey, can I sit down and pray with you for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you're just like, what? You're like, you run this giant company and you want to take a moment for me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You know, and it was really cool.
Yes.
It wasn't like somebody you're going to do business with. It was just like they really cared, you know.
You know, BJ, I believe that the Lord, even in times in our life when we're not close to Him or haven't been saved yet with a lot of people, He uses our past to be part of what our purpose is. I've seen that over and over again. And in my life, being an airbrush artist, for the most part, and I don't say this in a negative way, but most of your airbrush artists, at least in my time, you know, it's not that way so much today, but they were more of the druggy, uh, all they wanted to do was draw skulls and wicked stuff and everything, and I stood out from that so much. And so I was able to minister to a lot of those kind of guys because they looked up to me. And also I saw that even tattoo artists and even the taggers, because of my reputation as a airbrush artist, they identify with me. They feel comfortable with me. I even did a video for the sheriff's department on this whole tagging thing, and was able to go and talk to a lot of these taggers that I didn't know, but they knew me, and they felt comfortable talking to me about what that whole culture is all about. And so God used my airbrushing, the whole hot rod thing, the whole, monster cars and all that kind of stuff to be an in for so many people that I've been able to talk to.
And that's like, so like, sorry, I didn't mean to get off track. I keep getting a call from a guy.
You're too popular.
I know. No, so like, when did you start? Like, I know, did you start with pencil when you started doing art, or did you like? Because I know that you're in Kansas, so it'd be harder to get like an airbrush in your hands back then. I was just curious what instruments you started with, because I started with pencil, then went into markers, and I went back into pen, and then made my way to airbrush.
Yeah, I went from pencils when I was very young. I was the kid in school that was drawing cars in my math book, when I was very young. But then in Dodge City, believe it or not, they had a huge art department at the high school there back in the mid-'60s when I was there, and a teacher who was very progressive. And he really encouraged people to get into whatever kind of art they wanted. If they wanted to do pottery or whatever, he would get the means for them to do that.
Oh.
And so I told him I wanted to do airbrushing. And so he got me an airbrush. And I started doing that in high school, in art class. And pretty soon I was doing banners, for the football game and all this kind of stuff. And when I was in college, I used magic markers and was just drawing stuff on t-shirts for everybody. Didn't have an airbrush then. But once I got out to California, then I really got into airbrushing full time.
See, then back then you would have had to, like, do you have an electric compressor when you're going from show to show, or do you have gas power? Or?
No, yeah, I had electric, but I always needed a big one because I always wanted a lot of pressure. And this is one of the secrets that I used to tell people. And I used to love to talk to people. People would ask me, how can you get such thin lines on your t-shirts? Well, I was using one-shot enamel back in those days, painting t-shirts.
You're shooting oil paste?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That stuff never goes away.
I didn't know you were shooting one shot back then. That's some, man, that's like, you had to thin that down like a madman.
I did to some extent, but the thing was the pressure. I needed at least 80 pounds of pressure.
Well, and imagine with that thick paint.
Yeah, and I could draw thin lines with one-shot black enamel like crazy.
But you wouldn't have to worry about dry spray with oil paint either. I just worry about it like getting everywhere later on.
No, because it really wasn't that much. It wasn't like there was a lot of overspray or spray in the air.
Well, that's what I mean with an oil-based paint. Like it wouldn't overspray because it's so thick.
Yeah. No. Shoot, I used one shot for 40 years, BJ, painting t-shirts. The shirt I painted you was done with one shot.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't even know that. Like because when I started painting, like we had the creative colors, the Createx.
Yes.
The airbrush, the t-shirt paints and stuff like that. So it was like, I can't imagine using anything else because even those we had bleed through problems, and I don't miss painting shirts.
I started using one shot in the late 60s and used it up until probably about 10 years ago when I changed over to latex, different water-based paints.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of the water-based. I'm still over on the urethane camp.
I am not either, especially when it comes to painting black lines. You cannot get the solid, deep black, nice, clean. I haven't found any paint at least yet, and I've gone through them all, and I've had lots of companies, send me paint and want me to, advertise for them and everything. I have not found a water-based paint that will give you that deep black like the oil, like One Shot.
Well, I can tell you why. And I got this from one of the guys from Wicked Colors. Triple black. It comes from like when you're mixing it, it's a red base black and a blue base black and a yellow base black, and they mix them together. Well, with water base, you can only do the red base and the blue base. You can't do a yellow base black because they use the 3 primary colors, and that's how you actually create your black, and that's what like a triple black is. Water base, they can't do that, and they also have not been able to make an actual clear that's water based. So you still, even if you use water based paint, you got to use a urethane clear if you're doing automotive. Because like I know the t-shirt,
and I haven't.
It freaks me out that the t-shirt paints are the same ones that are the automotive paints, almost identical.
Yeah. And I haven't done a lot of automotive stuff. I've done a lot of murals on cars, like on hoods and stuff. But back in the day, I used One Shot, and now when I do it, I use a water-based paint, but then, I put a clear coat over it that, protects it.
Yeah.
House of Color is usually what I use for clear coat.
See, and I've been a fan of Tammy's lately, Tamco, only because of how clear it is. Her chemicals are like, she makes them here in America instead of like everybody else gets them shipped over from overseas. So they're actually making your reducers and the clear and everything's actually made here, so it's pure. So if you mix it up in the clear, you can actually see the cup difference. Like you got a yellow tint. I always used to think it was UV, like UV protected.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just yellowed clear.
Well, I haven't been doing a whole lot of that kind of airbrushing for a long time. I haven't had a shop really that I could do that. And I've gotten more into, I have so many people nowadays that want me to just do artwork for t-shirts, silk screening. And we silk screen a lot of shirts out here in Southern California. And the company that I work with, we have a 12 printer press, so we can do process printing. And I do a lot of automotive car show kind of t-shirt designs, and I really like doing that. And like, I don't need a big place to do that. I can just do it on my kitchen table if I need to.
Yeah, that's where, like you did our shirts for SEMA back then, the white ones. I know we're going to get some more of those here soon, as soon as we get some cash wrapped up again. COVID's been one of them times where it makes everything super tight,
Oh, I know. It's crazy. It's absolute craziness.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it ending. Like I already had to deal with the COVID. I'm ready to start traveling again. I'm ready for the world to kick off again. And I know everybody's freaked out about it and doesn't want to take the antivirus, but to me, it's like, give it to me so I can get back out there.
Well, if it was that simple, I wish it was, but I don't think it is, BJ. But I do believe good times are coming back. I really believe that America, there's been too many people over for too long of a time that have been praying for America, and God's heard them prayer. He's heard their prayers, and I believe that we're going to see some very interesting things happening in the coming days, and we're going to see some good times come back for a while.
I just want people to be happy, and that's why I've been trying to spread the message of empathy. And so many people think empathy like itself is like a bad term. Like you can only have empathy for somebody when they're sad. And it's like, no, you can have empathy for somebody when they win something, they do great at their job, like they're got a cool haircut, like And there's so many ways to be able to love on people, and I don't know why it's in my heart lately, but like I want to put my car on the road, empathy, and go start telling stories of empathy and start driving it around, and like we're gonna start doing stuff like that. But to me, it's like I almost feel like it's a thing that's needed more than ever is people to love on each other. And I know I didn't kill my best friend Daniel because of it, but like I feel like in my heart, like if I would have treated him with empathy and not sympathy, like he might still be here,
Mm-hmm.
and if I would have really related to the dude, and been like, hey man, like I understand where you're at, instead of being like, hey man, shit gets better. There's a silver lining. Like, oh what? So what? She broke up with you. Like there's millions of girls in the sea.
Yeah. Well, as you know, BJ, it's all about Jesus. We have to put our trust, our faith, and our hope in him, and anything else just doesn't work. It can maybe work for a while, but in this world, everything is a lie except for Jesus. And when we put our trust in him, we put our lives in his hands, then he makes life an adventure. I mean, really. And there's no worries and you can relax. That's what the world is trying to find right now, is they're trying to relax in something, find something that they can put their hope and their lives in. And there isn't anything but Jesus. And when
I
you
just feel like
understand
it's
it,
separated people so much. You know what I mean? With the COVID and the putting the mask on, and
yes,
people can't even see each other's faces anymore, so they don't even
no,
talk to each other face to face. So
well,
even the chances of being empathetic and having a chance to even love on another person is just few and far between, because everybody's closing themselves off further and further as things go. And I'm watching this trend in society, and it's really sad.
it is. But we're living in the last days. The Bible tells us, and all of this stuff that's going on, it's all part of Satan's plan, to number one, they're trying to, get rid of America. America is the superpower. America is the light on the hill that has been, the truth of so much of what we know as Christians. And so he's trying to destroy it. You can't destroy us in battle, so you have to do it like the Rome. Rome fell from within, and the United States is very much like that right now. But I believe we're coming back.
See, and I kind of, it's not that I'm not saying it's going the other direction, but I see America going Mad Max. Very
Yeah.
much so. Like I am so uncomfortable anymore that I am ready to leave the United States in like after SEMA next year and start building cars in Amsterdam, because it's the money is based on them selling our oil and us protecting them, right? And then you got
Mhm.
Russia moving in, everything else going on, America getting separated, not seeing the blind, and I'm just like, y'all don't see it. You need to start paying attention to what's going on in the world, because if our dollar turns into nothing, we're a third world country.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's when it starts circling the drain. And that's when these rednecks that have, don't get mad at me, rednecks. It's okay to, I know you have lots of guns. Please protect me. Like, I'm not going to try and take them from you. But they have thousands of weapons and thousands of bullets. It's just like, why? And it's like, because they've all been prepping for the zombie apocalypse or for this. And
Mhm.
to me, that's scary. And people don't realize it's scary, but like, owning a weapon, I'm okay with that, self-protection. But there's a point when you can fund your own army that starts scaring me a little bit. And then with the rest of the world tension, I've had the ability to be able to go to Afghanistan and Iraq and see what world war-torn countries look like. They didn't see it coming. They lived like first world countries. They had their Nickelodeon, their TVs, and all that kind of stuff. Like it was a little different of their versions, but they had a normal life. And then all of a sudden, shit
Well,
goes nuts. And
we read in the book of Revelation how it's going to end, BJ, and it is going to be like a Mad Max. But I don't believe the Christians, I don't believe the church, I don't believe the bride is going to be here when that really bad stuff starts happening.
see, and
I
that's where
believe
me and
that,
you kind of you're a what is it called?
Rapture.
Yeah, you're. I believe like no, I believe rapture is going to happen, but you're pre-apocalypse. I believe we all need to be tested. So it's all you're going to have to be tested your faith. The guy's going to come knocking on your door. You're going to be like, like convert or die, and you're going to
Well,
be like,
and that's true. But BJ, that's been going on forever. I mean, it's going on in China right now. It's
oh,
going
but
in.
I'm talking about when the rapture happens. I think it's going to be right at the end because like you got and that's where I know the Bible's kind of hazy, and you got people that go both directions, but we all agree to the same thing. We're going to the same place.
Yes.
I just want to be able to watch like it happen on TV from Europe and be able to go, because we all know it's going to happen in America. I don't want to be ground zero. I'm just smart enough to know. He says, it even says at the beginning of Revelations, it's the only Bible book that'll bless you.
Yes,
from reading
if you read it. Yeah.
So I feel like I've been blessed with the knowledge to know I need to go to Amsterdam to watch you all on TV.
Well, you just need to read my apostasy trilogy, and you'll
I
know
have,
how
and that's why I want to go to Amsterdam and watch it.
Okay.
Them are some scary books, man.
Yeah.
Just let you know if y'all want some books, and if even if you're on the border of being Christian, you just like some fucked up shit. Pardon my language, but read his books. They're good.
Yeah.
Like, because you go into depth. Like, I love Revelations, my favorite book in the Bible, because it's so graphic and scriptic, and talking about the seven seals and all that kind of stuff. And like, to me, we were looking up Revelation stuff last night just because I got excited about talking about it with you, because it's like, as an artist, every other book in the Bible, man, Daniel's kind of cool. When he talks about like the toes and stuff like that, and some of the stuff he sees. But Revelations is so much cooler. Like, Jesus' eyes are like fire, and like.
Yeah.
So to me, it's so much more descriptive. So as an artist, it was always the book that drew me in, and it used to really make my stepmom mad when that was all I would read. I never read the good news; I read the bad news.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of good news in Revelation too.
Oh, there is towards, and like and that's what I love about it, is it's like I love if it, like when it happens, I already know, like, we're more aware, but it's like I know what to look for. Like,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to them scorpion creatures that make people want to beg for death. I hope I get to live through that.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think we're going to be here during that, BJ.
Oh, see, that's what I want to be here for. Like, that's going to be the coolest. People are going to be like, oh, no, I'm going to deny him. I'll be like, dude, you're getting bit by a freaking scorpion thing. He's real. Admit it. Come on. No, he's not real.
Well, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people like that.
I know, but that's going to be so amazing to sit there and go, you're so stupid.
Oh, BJ, you're sick.
I know.
I'd rather be in heaven with Jesus.
Well, see, that's what I tell everybody. When I die, I'll ride jet skis with Jesus. I'm just hoping God lets me to go. I'd like to watch Armageddon, because I think that'd be pretty fucking badass. And because I also think, because it's in Revelations 19 when it talks about Jesus coming down on a white horse, and inscribed on his thigh, just like tattoos, on King of Kings, Lord of Lords. So Jesus is rocking down, because if Jesus got a tat, Jesus has the most badass tat. Michelangelo probably did that thing on him.
Could be. You never know.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing Jesus's tats and him flying down from heaven on this white horse. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that's my Jesus. I don't like like Old Testament God. I'm just glad Jesus coming back like Old Testament God, like a badass. I like the darker side of everything. I'm a little weird.
It's okay. It's okay. It's the way God made you.
When you go to church, everybody's always like, oh, it's, the love and the light. And there is love and light. There's also darkness right outside that door. When you've seen the darkness, the light's easy to see.
Yeah. We need to be the light.
Very true story.
Yeah.
And that's where I go through a thing with a lot of people. They're like, what church do you go to? I'm like, I go to some churches. I just attend a lot of them. Like, to me, I believe I can feed people just in the whole world. And his church is in that book. You read that book, you do what he says, and you love on people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the church is the body of Christ.
Yep.
It isn't just a building.
When I get too many people, I believe, focus in on the buildings like, oh, I'm Baptist or I'm Lutheran. And I'm like, do y'all love Jesus together? Is it okay? Can you guys go play pool together, or is that like bad? I think they divide themselves by definitions
Mhm.
instead of just going, hey, I'm happy, I love him. Let's go love on other people.
Yep. That's what he wants us to do. Yep.
And that's why I think as soon as you get away from the buildings, you don't have the barriers. And that's why I brought up SEMA. To me, it was like one of those moments in life. Like I was afraid of, like, because I do a lot of weird things in my art. So I add crosses here and there, or my own symbolization. On a few of them, I like to hide electric chairs, and I put a little cross on the electric chair. And my joke is, if Jesus was made in our time and we killed him, we'd probably kill him with an electric chair, and then all Christians would be wearing an electric chair around their neck instead of cross.
Uh-huh.
Because to me, they just look at what the symbol represents. They're like, that's it right there. And it's not actually what it means. I think it loses a lot in the translation.
Mm-hmm.
They think about where he died and not what he did.
Exactly. That's the symbol of the cross, is what he did, for us, and something we could not do for ourselves. And that's the gift of salvation.
Yep. And that's where I like to, I do that little electric chair thing, because I like to take different perspective. Just like I love reading the Bible, and people don't put inflection on where Jesus was, and what he was doing. I think Jesus was a bit of a smartass, because if you go read Luke 15 and you put in your head who he's sitting in front of, he's sitting in front of all the Pharisees. And the only reason I bring this up is because you're a pastor, and I know you'll get a kick out of this. But those are the people, that's one of the moments when they knew they were going to kill him, is when he sat down and started doing that Luke 15 stuff. He knows who's sitting in the room, and he's like, oh, yeah, the 99 of the one, yo. He's going to leave the 99 sheep to go after the one. And they're like, no. And then they talk about the woman losing her coins, and when they were starting to talk about the prodigal son, that they're like, oh, yeah, get him, Jesus. Get him. He's been a bad boy, but he didn't. It was like, so he's got like this badass kind of a smart ass way of being right, but nice. And I know you've met people like that in life. So that's why I love it, putting that inflection on it, because to me, it makes it more fun and makes him real.
Yes. Jesus was very real, and you could make movies out of all of the different confrontations that he had with the religious leaders of the time. I mean, and some of them are humorous, in the way they pan out, and the way he talks to them, and
like Zacchaeus in the tree. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's another funny one. Like, no, I couldn't see up there. No. I don't know. I guess, and that's where, like, I love that people don't put inflection on him. They think he's like this holy being, and like not realizing he's a dude. He hung out with drunks and like the worst of the slum, like the tax collectors and that kind of shit. And I mean, that's
he
like,
loved him.
Yeah, that's your dude.
He loved him, and he wants everyone to come to him. Doesn't matter what your past is, he's there to make you brand new again.
Yeah, and that's where, I don't mean to turn this into a whole church sermon for everybody that's tuning in, but like,
That's
to me,
okay.
I told everybody I'm changing the channel to talk about whatever we feel like talking about anymore, because it's been about, I am into cars, but this whole channel has been part of me growing as an artist. Like, when I started the channel, I started with painting panels, and then I started with painting graphics on cars, and they got to see me build some of my first cars, and it's been a growth as I've done this whole channel. And to me, it's like, they've always known I'm a Christian. Used to do a lot of Christian art like 9-10 years, or like 6-7 years ago. And I mean, like, tonnage, because I found out I did, not being negative or anything like that, but it's easy to sell Christian art.
Well, and I have done airbrushing during praise and worship in church, and I love doing that. And people get so blessed by it, by just doing what I call prophetic art, by just starting something and doing whatever the Spirit leads me to do as part of praising the Lord, as an artist, like a dancer or someone with flags or someone with an instrument or their voice, giving praise to the Lord. And so airbrushing paintings during praise and worship is such a blessing to everybody that watches it. And so many people want that painting. They want to take it home and put it in their home because they were there when it happened during that time period. That is a real trip, doing that kind of thing.
Well, that's a cool thing to do too. Like I know a lot of my Christian art would sell just because there was nothing cool that was Christian.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Who makes a Christian thing with true fire?
Uh-huh.
And to me it was like it made sense. Like iron sharpens iron was one of the ones my big sellers. Mm-hmm. And I'd do those lettering in like metal style lettering with like rivets, and then put flames on it, and people would just go nuts.
Yeah, it's a guy thing.
Yeah, and I always think people when they take an approach to Christian art, they take that softer. I don't know when Jesus turned into a big pile of flowers, and he's just all like, I know Jesus is love and God is love, but why would they think that? I don't know. It's like they make Jesus lame.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
When Jesus is like Fonzie.
Yeah. Well, he's the Son of God, and he loves you, and he loves me, and he loves everyone that's ever been born, and he wants everyone to be in heaven with him, but you have to accept him.
Oh, that's a very true story.
Yep.
So we'll come back to this here in a bit too, because I know me and you always seem to steer back that way. I want to go back to when you were at the beginning when hot rodding was kicking off, and this is something I'm kind of going into. Like in the late when the guys were coming back from war and stuff like that, you got to see that as a kid. And like the nitrous and the kind of hot rodding and the drag racing actually kicking off and starting to go coast to coast. Mm-hmm. Now with the electric coming on, I know we don't have anything to really spur it, but do you see electric as the next hot rod evolution?
No.
Now, why is that?
But I'm old school, BJ. I'm set in my ways. I know what I like.
Well, that's okay.
I like the noise. I like the heart pounding, sounds and throbbings of the hot rod engine. That's running through my blood. And I'll always be that way. And the electric cars and stuff, I'm sure there's a place for them and everything, but not as a hot rodder.
See, and I'm kind of on the other side of the boat. I talked to my dad about it today too. It was a joke because I told him I was going to have you on. I told him I was going to talk to you about electric hot rods, and he's like, "It doesn't have any soul. It doesn't make any noise."
You got it. Yeah, he and I are on the same page.
I told him we get him wire wheels and we put baseball cards in the spokes.
Yeah, well,
But like to me, I'm like, I look at the numbers from them, and yeah, they're not at the amount of miles that you can get out of a gas now, but it's so intriguing to me to be able to put 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, and that's with a 4,000-pound car. Mm-hmm. I mean, you put it in a lightweight car, you got to deal with the battery weight, yes, but you're still going to be like 2,500 pounds. You can lose $2,000. Now you're making hot rod Teslas, and I don't know. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm looking forward to seeing where stuff goes. A lot of people, like, they always bag on me, but like when imports became hot, I went and played. I wanted to see what was cool about them. What the guys were so excited about them. So why would I not be excited? I get to paint your fender skirts and your spoiler white when the rest of your car's green. You're mm-hmm. weird. I love it. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. I had two friends that bought 2 Subarus, and they literally swapped parts on the 2 cars to have multiple colored cars. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, I got the white hood, the white trunk on the black car. And then I got the black spoiler with the white ground effects. I'm like, the whole thing looks weird, man. And the other guys exactly flip-flop. You see the 2 cars cruising down the street. Everybody's losing their minds. And I'm like, this is weird. And it's like, I enjoyed that. And now it's like, I get to see the electric come up, and it's like the new weird. And like, I like to be like, because that's what hot rodding, like, to me, almost feel like is, because Ed Roth used to call the, big Ed, Ratfink is the anti-Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, to me, I'm like, hot rodders have almost become Mickey Mouse
Hmm.
because you're socially accepted. And now, like, it's like the electric, you're almost like, if you take electric and I put it to a hot rod, or I take import and put it to a hot rod, I am like anti-Mickey Mouse because I'm anti the main establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Well,
if I put an electric motor in a 32 Ford Roadster, like that would almost be sacrilegious at this moment in time.
mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
everybody, that's the purest hot rod.
yeah, I couldn't get excited about that, BJ.
See, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I almost feel like it's a. I'm excited about the time we're at in hot rodding because I almost feel like the geeks are finally going to have a place to hang out.
And that's okay. You know, whatever people are into, I'm fine with that. I just know, how my blood is stirred. Always has been, always will be.
Well, I'm the same way. I love horsepower. I love the numbers, but I know when the dorks beat me. When you can put down a 0-60 like that from an electric motor that makes no noise. And I'm like, holy crap, the technology's turned. It's like Facebook. I never thought that'd be a thing. I thought magazines would live on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't take away my wish list books. And they did. It's just like the teacher told me I couldn't have a calculator in my pocket when I was older. They were wrong. Like, I'm always wrong. So now it's like I'm just looking to the dorks to be like, all right, what's next, guys? Like, like you've got a passenger car doing faster than a Porsche. All right, let's play.
Okay. Well, I've never been into the whole fast thing. I love drag racing, but I'm more into the atmosphere of it than I am the actual, getting to the finish line first.
See, I've
Yeah.
always been about the people. I love the people. Like, when you go to
Oh
the
yeah.
show, I get to be back with my people, and we're all weird, and we all
Yeah.
accept each other for being weird because you have one guy that likes Dodges, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, you always have your different groups of guys. You got your imports, you got your Ford guys, your Chevy guys, and however they may bicker and everything like that, but they're always kind of combined.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then I felt like when the import stuff happened, it kind of separated, and then diesel people went this way and everybody went that way, and it was less of a domestic versus this, or it almost, now it's like almost the community is like coming back together, and I'm actually kind of enjoying it because it's like almost what it used to be, whereas people just accepted cars for cars because American isn't really American anymore. Domestic is really import, and it's everything is the same thing anymore. So nobody's making anything cool, so everybody's just grasping onto whatever is cool.
Mm-hmm. Probably so. Living in the past, but I see a lot of things happening. You've got your tractor pulls, your truck pulls. You've got different aspects of that have grown out of the hot rodding culture that are still very big, depending on where you live. If you live back in the Midwest in the farming communities, you see more of that kind of a thing than you do out here in California. But
Even that's kind of getting scarce out here where it was a lot more,
mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. I just don't want to see people going fast and having fun with cars dying,
Mm-hmm. No,
because
no.
I don't know. That'd just be sad to me to not have that anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
But no, and sorry, I didn't mean to get off track with that. I'm excited about building that Tesla. And like, to me, I think it's gonna be fun because I get to poke at hot rodders like around my own time, because it's like I can't have a supercharger hanging out of the hood.
Uh-huh. It's okay. I have more power to you. I'm happy to see you doing that, and I can't wait to see what you're going to develop some good things, BJ. I know.
I'm just looking forward to the fun and hanging out with my friends. Like, the people I have involved in a lot of my projects are good friends and epic people in the industry, and it's like they're all kind of leaning forward, and we're all just trying to figure out what's cool.
Yeah.
And for me, I like shooting it weird. Like, you've seen most of mine, like the Bronco and then Empathy, and it's like how can I go weird and do something that's not really socially acceptable? And I don't know. I think hot rodding is going to be the next thing. That's why I'm throwing the Camaro at the wall and you're going to see if it sticks. But that's why I'm going to Europe to disappear for a while.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And play with electric over there because I might be accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. More power to you, buddy.
Well, and I plan on moving up to North Cali because I love California. I just love it up north, the Grass Valley, like Tahoe area.
Uh-huh. Oh, it's beautiful up there. Yeah.
You know, and like that's one of my plans is to move that direction because it's just California's gorgeous. You know, and with everybody leaving, it's only going to get better. You know, and to pay the
Well,
taxes, it's like I don't know, it's not that bad to me. It's like you have to pay taxes to live in paradise.
yeah. Right now it's probably 72 right now here. So it's perfect weather.
But yeah, well, you said 72 out there. We finally got warm weather today. Did you guys get the cold spell?
Yeah, we had a little cold spell, but not much. We even got a little snow here last month.
I'm looking forward to the next time I can come out and see you because like I want to go see your buddies again and I want to hang out longer because I want to get more pictures and I still remember all these old Hudsons and I wish we still had that. We have some of that footage
Uh-huh.
from when we had it filmed and we lost part of it and it was a weird situation with the guy. But that was one of the coolest things going to that old. His friend has an old Hudson dealer hidden away in a shop, and it's just like you step back into like the 50s.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know. I love car collections and I love hanging out with other hot rodders. In California, like there's so many hot rodders that are still there, and I always believe they'll still stay because of the weather and everything else like that. Because you can enjoy your cars more.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so the corporation leaving and everything like that. To me, everybody's like, "Oh, but everybody's leaving California," and to me, I'm like, "Good, get the fuck out. Like, leave. Less of you means less crap to deal with."
Hmm.
Because like it's always been like not my target place to live, but it's always been the center of hot rodding. And
Yeah.
if I want
Always
to
has. Yeah.
if I want to play in that realm, then that's where you need to be. You know, and I'm glad the Silicon Valley boom happened, but I believe that brought most of them in, and that's what jacked all your taxes and everything else like that, messed everything up. Now everybody realizes they can work from home, so now they're all redispersing through Texas and Colorado and everywhere else.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of people have left California this year.
well, that I've been calling it the purge, so it's like ready for me to move back in. So the prices, in 2-3 years will drop back down, and I can sneak in.
Okay. Would be fun to have you out here, BJ.
Well, that's our plan. Is that way we can come hang out with you more and get you driving some electric hot rods.
Well, I doubt that, but you never know.
See, and I got another question for you because this is something I was talking to my wife about you. When did you meet your old lady?
I met my wife 44 years ago uh, at church.
So
And
your wife's been through you going all the shows and stuff like that.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And it was really funny because she's a very classy lady and was actually a secretary for a lawyer when I met her. She had no comprehension of what an airbrush artist was, much less a guy that goes around and paints T-shirts. So it was a real opposites attract kind of a thing. But she's the best thing that ever happened to me other than Jesus, and has stood by me all these years, and we've had a lot of fun.
It's kind of the same thing with me and my wife. We're just kind of opposites, and it just kind of works. Like she's very organized, very on point with everything, and
Oh,
I'm more
yeah.
erratic and
Hmm.
her word for me is eccentric.
Hmm.
I'm very, very eccentric. And I don't take offense to it. To me, she refers to me as Doc Brown a lot, like this, because I'm kind of Looney Tunes. But to me, I love the fact that we're opposites because it's like it makes life so much more interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And if you're smart, you glean from the other one the things that you are, you fall short of, and the things that you admire in that person that attracted them to you to begin with. So that's what my wife and I have done. We're partners in everything, and we have grown so much. And she's a woman of God, which is the main thing. And she has helped me through so many hard times in our life, and I've helped her. And we've been on a journey that has been a real adventure.
So when me and my wife first met, I was a Christian, but not really. Like I
Mhm.
got baptized in youth group at some point because I was trying to hook up with one of the chicks. I didn't realize that youth group was not the place to do that. That like the
Yeah.
girls that go to the youth group are actually believe in Jesus and they're not whorish.
Uh-huh.
Um, Never really occurred to me. So my parents, like my dad was like, "Yeah, go to youth group. Yeah, go ahead, put on that cologne. That's gonna work."
Hmm.
Trying to rub off on me good. And I got baptized because I thought it'd make the chick like me better. But like my wife, when we first got married, like she kept insisting to go to church. And I'm like, all right, I'm going. So I started battling the pastor there. And like I decided I was going to go in and prove Jesus wasn't real, thinking it would be over and the wife would be like, oh, you're so amazing. And the pastor took it as a very fun challenge. Because I'm
Mm.
like, I'd bring up a new thing and he started using it for sermons. I'd be like, where are dinosaurs in the Bible? And he's like, here? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and I started talking about like certain times like Cleopatra and this and that. And he's like, here, 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 and here.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't like you anymore. But eventually I ended up getting baptized. So it was cool because the pastor would give me reading assignments to read. And I'd read them and then I'd come back at them with something else. You know what I mean? Like I was full on not ready to give up Sundays because Sundays was racing. And the pastor kept telling me, you don't have to come to the building on Sundays. You can still be a Christian and not have to come here on Sundays. And then that's when he brought in Godspeed Racing to church. And he's like, see, BJ, come with this guy. He does church at the
Mhm.
racetrack.
Yeah.
It took me forever to it to hit inside my head, like what it was. And you know what I mean? And then when Jesus started working in my life, it was just awesome. Like it was like, oh shit, I get this. And that's where I became a Christian. And then as soon as I became a Christian, like a year and a half later, my best friend died. And I still didn't follow what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
Bible wise stuff. And it took God for me I just posted a video the other day about me talking about Norma Jean when I started that build. And it took God telling me like 3 times to go, or like more than that, like 10 times to go talk to this clamping company. I kept hearing voices in my head. He's like, you need to tell them you're going to SEMA with you or with them. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to look crazy. And when I finally admitted, I don't know if you know the story. I'll make it real brief for you. After Daniel killed himself, it was about 2 weeks later. We took a motorcycle ride down to Jackpot, Nevada, to go to a car show. At the car show, when we got there, I saw this clamping company. The new product stuff, always in the corners. They got the little the tents usually. I saw their product, and instantly in my head, I heard a voice that said, "You need to tell them you're going to SEMA with them." Now, I had closed my shop. I had sold almost all my tools. It was about 6 months earlier. My mom had died. My stepmom had died. So I was done with it. I'd stayed in Kansas too long. My bills got too high. Sold the tools to pay the bills and just was done. I was like, I'm done. And so we're looking around the show. I'm talking to a bunch of my car friends and stuff like that. And I went up and looked at the clamping company a couple times. And eventually, one of my friends had purchased their clamps and he had just got them put on his car. So I tried to break them, tried to prove they were crap. I couldn't. Ended up telling him later on. I walked back up to his booth. He's like, "Man, you've been up here about 4 or 5 times." Yeah, I know. Sitting there kind of talking with him. He's like, "Can I help you with something? You got a build going on?" I was like, "No." Like, well, I'm supposed to tell you something. He's like, "What are you supposed to tell me?" I was like, "I think I'm supposed to tell you I'm going to SEMA with you guys." He goes, "Oh, really? We haven't even thought about going to SEMA, but what are you building?" I was like, "Don't have a build." He goes, "Well, what shop you working at?" "Don't got a shop." He goes, "Well, that's kind of funny, you know. The guy that gave me the design for this clamp, he's from upstairs. You let me know what he's got planned." And a year and a half later, we were showing Norma Jean at SEMA.
Hmm.
You know, and it's just like I had no plans of that, no plan of that build, nothing, you know. And it's been fun to see the journey he's had me on.
Very good. Very good.
So, but no, I don't know if I'd ever shared that with you.
No, no.
But that was one of my big moments, and that's why I know that like he's in charge and he's steering the wheel for me. And that's how I always kind of gauge everything. And I pray about everything, and I just go the direction he tells me.
Good. Well, if we follow him, if we allow him to direct us, you're not going to make very many mistakes.
And it's for me, it's like it's been a fun journey because it was a weird time going to SEMA that first time. And when I was telling him, well, the first time as a lead builder, and talking to people and telling them the story, and like they openly were Christian, and it was like I was being embraced by the industry.
Hmm.
And it was almost like there was more Christians than not Christians that were there.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was like, that's really kind of strange, but I'm going to dig it.
Cool.
It's just, and it's almost like I'm not going to say the car industry is Christian majoritively, because I know there's other religions out there, but it's like almost in America, I almost feel like it's kind of steered that direction, and it's almost like a haven.
Hmm. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So, and I almost feel like it kind of scares some people off from them, but not really. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of
When
those
you're a
things that always
Christian,
runs through my head.
yeah, when you're a Christian, you're drawn to other Christians and they're drawn to you. So it can seem that way. I know there's a lot of people that I know in the automotive industry that are Christians, and they live their lives for the Lord, but they're in the world and they're doing what they do to make a living and what they enjoy doing, and so there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. I'm one of those. I always analyze everything because I like to see how things work and like understand why it's that way, and because like I'm really big on watching trends. You know what I mean? Like, and like
Hmm.
when Christianity's trending and when it's not trending, when it's cool to be a Christian, when it's not cool to be a Christian, and I like comparing those times and also going, okay, what was happening in the world? And it's really interesting to see that if you actually kind of go back and you looked at like when they had the big Christian boom in the 70s. I don't know if you remember that, like they had the
Oh
revival
yeah.
era, like in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Like that was when the paint stuff was kind of going wild. And
Hmm.
like it's like it almost like the two kind of they kind
Well,
of almost follow each other. It's like one follows the other.
as you know, BJ, art is a reflection of the society that we are living in so
Ooh, good
many
point. Good
ways,
point.
you know, and our faith is uh, a reflection against society so much of the time because the people that aren't saved, they don't understand, they don't understand spiritual things and they're only living for themselves. And the Bible tells us that they can't understand spiritual things until the Holy Spirit saves them. They look at us and they don't understand so much of the time. And so the things that we do um, should be a reflection of Jesus Christ and the Father and the Holy Spirit. And when we are that light in the world, we can make a difference in whatever we're doing in my artwork, in my life, in everything that I do that touches people. I should be a reflection. I should be an ambassador for the kingdom of God.
See, that's where. See, and I was thinking of I was thinking of myself as like an ambassador, but I think of myself more as a disciple. Where I know some people are more evangelists. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's where like
Well,
I'm not one to, I'm one to like let stuff lie until it's brought up as a subject or something like that. Don't mind participating in conversation, but it's not like I'm not going to be the evangelist on the corner.
No, well, that's not everybody's purpose.
Yeah,
We all
and
have
that's what I
different
love
purpose.
is we all have different roles.
Yeah, that's why it's called the body, because there's different parts to the body. You have your fingers, your hands, your ears. We're all different parts that make up the one body. So not everybody stands on the corner and preaches the gospel.
True story.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of Christians that want to be that direction and they push a lot of people away, I almost believe.
Yes.
Like, it's like you almost need to know your audience. Like, I can reach people that other people can't, and people need to start realizing who they can reach.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's the people that they can talk to, that they're related to, that they're relative to, that are their people. That's who you can reach. You don't have to reach out to the rest of the world. You just reach your people.
Exactly. And that's why it's important that we all are witnesses for him, and no matter what we do in life, because that's how you reach people.
Yeah, it's by telling them your story, not his story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You tell his story by telling your story.
It's the Holy Spirit that does all the heavy lifting. It's the Holy Spirit
you don't have
that
to do
brings people to the Father, and we just need to be witnesses for him just in our lives. And in that, you're like a preacher on the street corner. You're just living the life, and people will look at you and they want what you have.
See, to me, I love the way God kind of works with me. Is it's like the works of art that I do, or the cars that I build. It's like I would never come up with a lot of those ideas on my own. Yeah, they come from my creation of my hands, but some of it's like not even my hands working. It's like I see the idea in my head, and I'm like, how can I make that? And I don't even know where the idea comes from half the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But that's the way God made you, BJ.
Oh, I know, and I love it. It's fun because
Yeah.
I love the adventure because I never know what's next. You know what I mean? Like I know I annoy a lot of people with like the way I do stuff and the builds I do, and not really knowing the direction I'm going half the time. I know Dawn hates that, like nobody's business, and it's like we get something going and it just never hits traction. And it's the stuff that hits traction is always the crazy builds I do. So it's like, well, it's the direction I'm meant to go. This is what I'm supposed to do. So
Mm-hmm.
let's just keep going. You know, but like half the time it's like it doesn't work, but it does work. I don't know. Like I get such bad response as soon as I say Tesla Camaro, like especially with you and a lot of routers in the industry. It's like, oh.
It's okay, BJ. Don't be discouraged.
And well, it actually encourages me. I kind of love it because it's like I'm gonna annoy that many people. Like that kind of gets me excited. Like it's like I already know like 90% of my friends, like 80% of the people are already like, oh.
It's what
But
you
at least
do.
I get a reaction at least. At least it's
Yeah.
discussed. At least you've been emotional.
No, I think it's great. And, people that have different ideas, that's how new things and new products happen, and a lot of times it sounds crazy to begin with.
See, and I love how every build I learn something new or something weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I didn't know that about myself. Or, it's like I'm continually growing as an artist because it's like, well, like when I was welding the fender, when we were putting the fenders on, like I didn't want to stitch them up all the way. And I knew it was because I wanted it to look like patchworky, but I couldn't see it in my head. And then you see it done and you're like, that's what I wanted. And you couldn't understand it at first. I just knew it's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's trusting that it's right. And everybody going, are you sure? Should we grind them? I'm like, no, don't grind them.
Mm-hmm.
Like show your work, show the garbage, and not be afraid to show that you're imperfect. And that's where I don't know, I'm kind of going off track here, but like to me it's like I almost feel like it's more acceptable in the industry now to be yourself. And so many people are still trying to put on a front, and I wish they'd take the veil off. And that's why I kind of like the radical builds, because they're more to the truth of hot rodding. They're just guys in a garage that are going to drive their cars to SEMA.
Yeah. And I
No
love that.
trailers.
I love that. I love the whole rat rod scene. Um, I really do. I really think that's really great.
Yeah, it makes it's. I gotta, and that's where I was talking. I got to talk to Brian Daigle. He got cut off the other day because of weather. We're gonna catch back up with him. But that's one of the things I love about the radical stuff is it's like to be with those guys. I try and imagine it was like the '60s.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know, like when guys were driving cars to SEMA, and they would team up just to make sure their cars would make it. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times they weren't even sure they could get there. There was not just trailers running this way or that way. You know, and they're trying to figure out how to get stuff there. And it's like, wow, that's just neat. You know, to think that those many guys teamed up to get there and they were able to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sorry, I almost sneezed. Whew. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Bill. And you got anything else you want to talk about, sir?
I don't think so.
What kind of projects are you working on right now?
It's been fun. I'm not into doing a whole lot right now because I'm in transition in moving my studio. So I don't have any big things going on. I get people that want me to do artwork, all the time. Just, the little stuff, the t-shirt designs and stuff. But actually, I'm thinking about writing another book. And so that's kind of where my mind is right now.
What are you going to write this one on?
It's going to be another Christian end times novel, and it's going to have to do with a lot with the sounds of the throne room in heaven, the sounds here on earth that the whole earth, all of creation praises the Lord in their own way. And so I'm finding that subject very interesting, and I'm just doing a lot of research on it right now. And so if I have a project, it's probably that right now.
See, I got a funny question for you because this is my perspective as kind of a Christian. Like I try not to judge anybody else or any other religions or anything like that. But if you notice, a lot of the religions, because I travel the world a lot, they always have one God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I almost believe they all understand that there is one God. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, okay,
Yes.
they acknowledge he exists. I almost feel like because God loves us enough that he would like, I'm not saying he would let them into heaven, but like, they, what's the best way to put it? That everybody fights world wars over stupid things like Muslim versus Christians when both books talk about loving each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even in the Quran, it talks about Jesus in the Quran. It mentions Jesus more than Muhammad in the Quran.
The problem is, BJ, the Bible tells us there's only one way to God, and that's through Jesus Christ.
And that's through the Son. And I understand that. I understand that portion. And I get that. But as a Christian, like as a Christian man myself, I can't understand the whole world, like on all these wonderful people God's put on earth, that he would just, and that's why I'm hoping everybody will like see the light and realize that all religions are the same. But I almost believe it's like it's not that they got it wrong, but it's like they read stuff into it at different times. Like Hindu, when they talk about like Hindus are some of my favorite. The people just love on each other to love on each other,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like they want to help each other. So to me, it's like I see so much good in those people. I just can't imagine them. If like Armageddon happens, all of them just being dead. You know what I mean?
We all have an opportunity to accept Jesus. Everybody does. Okay. And so the Bible tells us that he is the only way, and we have an enemy who is trying to deceive mankind because he hates man. And so he will do everything he can, even a lot of good things, people that are good, that do good things. But that doesn't give you salvation to be with the Father for eternity. Only through Jesus Christ and through his blood, because we're all fallen men, And so that's the whole plan of salvation. Whether you like it or not, that's the way God set it up.
Well,
You
that's what
know,
I'm saying. It's not my job to judge or anything like that. To me, I just love on everybody, and
Mhm.
I'm like, they're gonna get from me what they can, and I try not to argue with everybody over like Christian versus Muslim because I have Muslim friends, and I have, it's not like I'm gonna preach to them every day. It's just like I love them as a person, and I'm gonna have to show them by example. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And they may never
Exactly.
have the example, but at the same time, I hate thinking of one of my friends as dying.
Hmm.
You know, and that's
Well, God,
one of my battles as a Christian, where it's like I can love on them as much as I can, but I honestly, I still, it's not like I'm saying I believe that they're all going to live, but I believe it's like it's going to be different. God's got some sort of crazy plan that I don't understand, and He's going to be like, Buddha's going to show up and be like, "Hey, yo, here's my son Jeebus." And on
well,
the second coming of Christ, like maybe everybody's like, "All right, that's him. See the horse? We were wrong. Let's do this."
yeah. And a lot of that's going to happen. I believe that. And I also know that God is just in all of his ways. And we don't understand everything, you know. And so
Well, you
even
sound
when I
funny.
don't understand, I
You
know
sound really funny right now.
that sounded funny.
Yeah, your audio kind of got messed up.
Oh, really?
You're like down a hallway all of a sudden. Yeah, now your audio's gone. You
Okay.
back?
Yeah.
No, you're still down a hole.
Wow. I wonder why.
Hmm.
Everything looks fine.
Yeah, it's like your microphone or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe you want to have him call back again?
How's that?
No, it's still messed up. You want to call back real quick? Like, end it real quick and then just call back. We'll keep it open.
Okay. If I can do that, let me see if I.
This is really weird. Yeah, it's still all shaky right now. It's still high pitched.
Okay.
Yeah, just try and end the call and just call back. He can send you the link again if you need.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
If you just touch your screen, it's on the upper right for leave.
Uh, yeah, I just got my keypad now. I don't have that.
No, it's on your screen. Oh, did you close it or something?
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to remove you and then just click the link again.
Okay.
We'll keep it going. Sorry, everybody, for our. Don't report it to Zoom. Oh, no, don't. Okay, he's not going to remove you. He won't be able to rejoin. Um, I don't know. I don't know. We're trying to get everything fixed. Sorry, everyone. That was just weird on the audio. I think we're trying to get Bill joined again. We'll continue on with the conversation. Thank you, everybody, for kicking in. I know that I saw Larry on there. I saw Miss Pitts on there. We've had a lot of cool people chime in. I saw my mom and everybody. Oh, shoot. Donzie said hi. What's up, Donzie? But yeah, Bill's a really great guy. He went up with he grew up with, or not grew up, but like did art with one of my favorite artists, and some of his art is some of the coolest stuff we've got. Did you already resend the link? You should be able to click the same one. Okay. But Bill is he's done some amazing art and stuff like that. We had him at SEMA in 2018. It was great having him out. He was, can't even remember what I was talking about. I hate when we have bumps in the thing because now it messes me up. Everybody gets to see me being dumb. Is he calling back? Bill doesn't know how to use technology very well either. We got him to download Zoom today, or no, he downloaded it last week before we did it. And I apologize to everybody. I was really sick last week. I've had this wound vac on, and I had an infection build up because they took me off the antibiotics, and I came back on. You should be right there. uh, we'll get it all figured out. But no, Bill came with us to SEMA in 2018. Real epic guy. Like, he was in the booth. And one of my favorite things about when he was in the booth was that literally people were coming out of the woodworks, and you'd hear I was saying, "Oh, Bill Copeland's down here." And like, he had a big easel set up in my booth, and he was just down there with markers, and he probably knocked out like 20, 25 drawings a day, just pulling so many people in. It was really, really cool. Some of the cars he was drawing, he just was knocking them out so quick, and people would just hang out. And I don't know, it was just neat to see a little piece of the old school like come back, because seeing the fact that it was exhibitors that were coming to the booth, it was like really kind of neat, because those were the guys that were in the industry or like trying to get in the industry back then. And it was just, I don't know, like, I love where the industry's gone, where we've got the younger and the newer and the older, and we're kind of all over the place anymore.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. You sound great again.
Okay.
There you are. Yep,
Yeah.
You're golden, brother.
I don't know what happened.
That was weird. I don't know. It was like your mic flipped off or something.
Well, you know who the power of the air is, BJ.
The devil. What were we talking about before that shut off?
We were talking about Jesus.
I remember what part though.
Oh, I don't know.
I had something I was going to ask you, and I can't even remember now. The microphone kicked off, and it was like, oh, it messed me up, and I was like, dude.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Do you remember we were talking about Cody? He's like, no, I'm just trying to keep everything working.
Yes.
No, I was telling everybody about SEMA and stuff like that, and how cool it was, like seeing you at that time, like getting to see the exhibitors coming in. I love the fact that the old is embracing the new, and the new is embracing the old, like as guys. You know what I mean? In the industry, where like it used to have this feeling at SEMA. I've been sneaking in since the beginning of time. Since I turned 18, and it was like, all right, got to start sneaking into SEMA. That's my thing. And I've seen it turn from I don't want to share my secrets to come here, let me teach you something, kid.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't want it to die. So, and that's been one of my favorite things about it, is seeing men grow in the industry, and seeing them like, okay, I don't want to just hide all this. If I want it to continue on, we've got to continue sharing.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting industry, and people get excited about it, and so it overflows and just keeps going and going.
Oh, I remember what we were talking about. We were talking about like end of times kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, we were talking about religions, and that's what we were going over. It's like different religions and stuff like that. Man, what was my question? It was something I really honestly wanted to ask you. Hopefully I remember, but I got one that's off the wall. Okay. Now that the government's admitting that there's aliens, I don't want to get into an alien talk, but perchance, do you think aliens could be our angels?
Oh, I believe that the fallen angels, okay, there's two kingdoms. There's Satan's kingdom and God's kingdom, and there's angels in each one of them. The fallen angels are the ones that fell with Satan when he was cast out of heaven. And they definitely are a part of this whole alien abduction. They can manifest themselves. They have been manifesting themselves for centuries as orbs, lights, silver lights, silver kind of discs or whatever, all down through history. We have records of that. And so it's nothing new under the sun. In the ancient times, the fallen angels appeared to men and told them they were gods. Well, the only difference now is now they're telling them they're aliens from another planet. And I believe, and that's why I wrote the series that I wrote, the Apostasy series, the trilogy. It's all about the alien hoax and abduction syndrome that is really, I believe, going to cover up the rapture when it happens.
See, that's kind of why I was bringing up the aliens too, because I wanted to throw that in because it was one of the things I know you covered in there. But I don't know, I see your point of view on it, that they could be that direction, but I'm not gonna say I've seen things, but I've seen lights that I can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
And seen things in the sky, and I've seen some of the pictures and some of the, and I get that the demons could be that, and that really freaks me out. Thinking there's a bunch of demons flying around, maybe space aircraft, that's pretty scary. So it's when if you imagine that, because when I read your book, I'm like, I imagine the president meeting the aliens at some point. So if by the way your book, everything like that is, so it'd be like the president meeting demons, which that's pretty crazy in its own.
Mm-hmm.
So and if it does I don't know, I always go to Mars Attacks and stuff like that, when I think of aliens.
Yeah.
So it's I think of them as demons, and it's would America be swayed? Would they not be swayed? Would Christians still be Christians? Would that be something that would cause the break in all of society?
Well, that's really what my books are all about, is a possible scenario based on scripture of how Satan could use this whole alien UFO thing to not only hide the truth of the rapture, but to bring the nations of the world together under the Antichrist, because they're going to have this false flag kind of situation where they think that the earth has to battle this outside force that's coming from space. So I believe it's a very real scenario. I believe that we're going to see a whole lot more of that kind of deception happening in the near future. And a lot of people are going to accept it, BJ, because we've all grown up with Star Trek and Star Wars and all of this stuff to make us believe that, it's very possible there could be life on other planets. Where the Bible...
I'll never turn down saying there's not life on other planets, because God may be crazy and may have, and Jesus might be over here, and might have brought Jesus over there. He may have created a bunch of different ones. We never know. I don't know what God's plan is. I just look forward to hanging out with him and riding jet skis with Jesus.
Yeah. I think we just need to have knowledge. The Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And so all of the truth that is in this world is in the Bible. And you read your Bible, you can't go wrong. And you're not going to be deceived by whatever Satan tries to pull as a huge deception in the future.
And I find all that stuff real intriguing and fun, because to me, it's I love to go the what ifs. I that's why I love reading Revelations, because it's when it happens, I want to be knowledgeable for one. If it happens in my lifetime, I want to be knowledgeable. And at the same time, I love the fact that it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told you before, I want to be one of the people that we get to watch.
Yeah. Well, and if it does happen, and I believe it's going to, that's going to be an opportunity for us to witness to people. It's going to scare a lot of people if it happens like that, and people are not going to know what to do. And we that are grounded in the scriptures and grounded in the word and know, what the truth is, it's going to be a good evangelistic tool to witness to people.
I just want to watch. I'll tell people about it, but I'll be like, man, you should see that thing and fuck that dude up. Because you got to think that a seraphim with the four heads and the freaking wings that are, what, like 35, 40 foot long. Like, I look forward to seeing one of them bad boys fly.
Oh, well, go ahead, BJ. I really don't care to see it.
I've tried to draw them before. And they're just crazy. Like, you can go it's like, I still want to see one so I can draw it. Like, and I've seen other people's drawings, but like, they don't follow all the rules. And they've got the seraphims. And what's the other teraphim? No, it's not seraphim and teraphim. It's I call them big and little.
Cherubims.
Yeah.
Cherubims.
You got big ones and little ones. One of them has four heads. One of them has one head with four heads or 4 faces.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the dual wings. And to me, I want to meet those dudes.
Well, like, they're in the throne room. You're going to see them one of these days.
Oh, I want to ride one. And that's where I think a lot of people don't like. I think that if more people opened up their Bible, like especially car guys, because you know we're all screwed up a little bit. You know, instead of telling them the good news, tell them the bad news. Like, lead in with revelations. Like, hey man, I got this story. You're not gonna fucking believe this shit, but it's gonna be true. Come on, let's read this. You know, and break it in that way, because like and that's where Pastor Dan took me. He was like, all right, you're a weird kid. He goes, let's go over Revelations. He goes, let's go through this artistic stuff, and we went to one of the first things he did is when he first meets Jesus, like in Revelations, and his eyes are glowing like fire, and everything is about him and stuff like that. He's like, all right, draw me that face. And I tried to draw it, like, for the hell of me, like, because you know, if his eyes are gleaming at you like fire, and you said he couldn't even really look at him. So to me, it's like you can't even see his face. So it's like it's ambience light. It was so fun to try. You know, and using his descriptive words, it makes it to where you can't even really try. So, and that's where, like, you talk about the room in the book with the 7 seals. Like, what does that book look like? You know, like, that to me is intriguing. And you keep breaking off seals.
Yeah.
You know, who's sealing a book with 7 seals? It's crazy. And then I've read Revelations about 1,000 times. Like, I totally have got it figured out to where, if you've ever done this, I don't know if you have, you ever taken the seals and the vials and put one on top of each other?
Well, a lot of people say that very well could happen, because the book of Revelation isn't written in sequence. Okay.
Yep.
There's lots of things happening at different times and at the same time. So
and that's where I love that's where you're getting the same thing I have. Like, it's kind of spaced out. It's almost written twice. Like, you read it once and then it almost splits, and then it's written almost a second time. It's where it talks about, like, when you have the trumpet and then the vial at the same time, because it talks about, like, the infection and the famish running across the country and this and that. So when you break that seal, that would be the first would be the action, and the other would be the reaction of what would happen. I find that so intriguing. It's like so dark, and I love the fact it's written cryptic. It's very cryptic.
Yeah.
And you start noticing stuff like that, and you start putting the pieces together, the whole thing makes more sense.
Yes.
And I think it's funny, a lot of Christians will veer away from that book, where to me, it's like, that's where I want to go.
Well, too many Christians are afraid to read it, and too many pastors are afraid to teach it because they don't want to scare people. And it's not about scaring people. It's about preparing people, because there's no fear with the Lord, no fear at all. And so it's not a book to scare you. It's a book to show you that God knows what the future is. And we need to be prepared, especially if we're going to live in this time period that is very close to what Revelation is. We need to understand it.
And see, I'm one of those people that I don't think we're in Revelation time yet. We could be, but like, I don't know. Like I don't think we'll ever really know, because I think a lot of people think it's happening during their time. You know what I mean? Like if you go
Mhm.
back to the 1930s when the War of the Worlds was playing on the radio and people thought that was the end of time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's been that way all down through time that, people have thought that the end was near, you know, but I think the fact that Israel has become a nation is a very huge sign that we are living in the last days. Because Jesus tells us that in Matthew 24, that that's the sign to look for, that generation that sees Israel become a nation will see his return. And so that's my generation. That's me, because I was born in 1948, just like Israel. So it's my generation.
See, but
So
at the
I
same
believe we're
time, like
living.
if you kind of look at it, but the United States didn't recognize them until with Trump in presidency was the first time they've actually, what do you call it? I can't even remember.
Well,
They
the
kind of admitted
embassy,
they're
we moved the embassy. Yeah.
yeah,
But we've always
and
recognized, the United States has always recognized
but
Israel
never
as,
noticed the home of it though.
yeah. Well, if it wasn't for President Truman, they would have never become a state. You know, it's the United States that has stood with them all along.
And I see stuff that goes down. I've been there once, and it's sad what's happened to that place, and and I find it very intriguing what people do. Like I can't remember the name of that wall, but
The
people are putting
Wailing
all their
Wall.
putting their prayers into the wall, and it's it's really funny because it's the Jews versus the Muslims. It's not the Christians. The Christians are just kind of there, you know what I mean? To just
Hmm.
take everything in, but like the Jews are like, this is ours, and then the Muslims are like, this is ours, and then I don't know. It's like one putting one temple on top of another temple. I know that happened back in time, but that was just. I feel like they've been prepped for a fight for thousands of years, and that it's just like it's. I don't know. I just hope it ends soon.
Me too. I'm ready to go.
But I think we've been on here for a couple hours. I got something I do with everybody. I may have them. You don't have to tell me now. I have them pick out their 5 top songs, 5 songs that get you going, get you motivated, and get you ready for your day, or for like if you're feeling down or anything like that. We're creating what we call the master playlist on Spotify. So we have songs that some of them aren't even in English. You can put Christian songs in there, but it's one of those playlists that people can just kick on. And I just want them to have something that will motivate them and get them out there to do things. Because I believe 99% of people will listen to stuff and they'll never do anything with their lives. And
Hmm.
they just want to ride life out. Like you're one of the people that, you grasp life by the horns at one point in life. And that's where I'm trying to motivate people to get out there and do stuff. And that's why everybody we've had on the podcast is somebody following their dreams, has followed their dreams, or is following their dreams. And I
Okay.
believe those are the people that need to get out there. And I believe music has a big thing to do with mentality and keeping stuff straight and clean and really kind of uplifting yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
So you want to know my 5 favorite songs?
yep, your 5 songs that get you rocking in the day, and we'll add them to our. You don't have to tell me right now.
Okay. I'll text them to you.
Yep, and trust me, it's
Okay.
fun because it's like everybody gets to share them. We'll post them up, and people get to see what yours are, and like they know what mine are, and like mine are non secular, so they're like more, but they're all uplifting songs about following your dreams and stuff like that. But some
Uh-huh.
people had some that are like, wow, that's your uplifting song. But then you listen to it and you're like, I've never listened to the song the way they listen to it. And I listen to the words, I'm like, holy crap, that is a good song.
Hmm.
So it's gotten me to realize there's other music out there that touches people in different ways. So if I create a playlist that covers all different genres of people, it'll be one playlist that you can go to. You'll find something in there that'll help you.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Okay. I'll have I'll have to figure that out.
But I thank you so much for coming on, Bill, and I love you, brother, and I look forward to chatting with you again. And I'll definitely be in touch with you more about shirts. Is there anything you want to shout out before we get off?
I've really enjoyed it, BJ. I appreciate it. It's been fun talking to you, and going back over things. It's really been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, we'll definitely have to do it again. I was thinking about
Yeah,
doing one with you and somebody else too, and having
sure.
like a round table discussion.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Even another artist, of some sort, another airbrush artist.
Well, and
You know.
I have a friend of mine named Marcus Faris. He's in Europe. He's a pastor,
Oh
and
wow.
he's been through a lot. I'd like to get you two on at the same time to talk about art. He's done some of the coolest art, and it's because of the people that oppressed him that made him do the art for them, and he put Christian influences in their art, and
Uh-huh.
they have no idea. And it's like some of them have come to be Christians later because of what his work is.
Let's
His
do
story,
that.
he's got some awesome stories.
Let's do that, BJ. Put it together. Let's do that. I would
Definitely,
really
brother. We're
like
talking
that.
about doing more of these like podcasts because
Yeah,
I'm having so much fun doing them, talking with my friends and having discussions that I believe we should have.
yeah, I
Like not
agree.
being afraid to talk about Christ, not being afraid to talk about whatever. To me, I'll talk about anything.
Hmm.
And I just think that it's more conversations that get out in this world. And like you have so many stories to tell, and I believe you have stories that need to be put in on the digital realm before you're gone.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And you have so many
Yeah.
more lessons to teach people. And I believe we're going to lose. We've lost so many good people as it is that
Yes.
we need to have more. We're in the digital age, so we start recording conversations and teach lessons because these are going to be around for years and years to come.
Yeah, I agree. Good idea.
But I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will definitely be in touch more.
Okay. Love you too, BJ. God bless you.
Bless you too, brother.
All
And
right.
thank you all for tuning in. And we'll be back on this Friday with Tammy from Tamco Paints. Super excited to talk to her too. Thank you, guys.